Welcome back to the Williams, Elleby, Howard & Easter YouTube channel. I'm Joel and this is Jared, and today we're going to talk about what is my car accident case worth in 2026. There's a lot of things that have stayed the same over the years and a few things have changed. So we're going to we'll briefly touch on things that have remained the same, and then we'll jump into things that have changed. So you want to get us started, Jared?
What is my case worth? That's what everyone wants to know, and that's what every lawyer wishes they knew immediately after a car wreck. But it depends on a lot of different things, a lot of variables, and like Joel said, things have changed over time. Really, mainly the first thing when you're trying to figure out what your car wreck case is worth is what are your injuries? The extent of your injury is really kind of the baseline for controlling what the value may or may not be. Obviously, if you're not injured or you only have a small injury, your pain and suffering value is going to be a lot less than if you've broken multiple bones, have years of treatment or surgeries, or lose the use of a limb or something along those lines. That's definitely going to be the baseline to start for what is my case worth.
Yeah, and what Jared's talking about there primarily is focusing on pain and suffering or general type damages. So the degree and the length of time that you suffer from those damages has always been a factor in what the case is worth. So that hasn't really changed over time. Another thing that hasn't changed over time is how much is in the pot to recover from. Who hit you? Was it Chris Farley living in a trailer down by the river, or was it some Amazon truck, right? And if it was a normal, hardworking person that hit you, how much insurance do they have available? How much coverage do you have available? All those factors play into how much can be recovered, because even if you have a $50 million claim, if there's only $50,000 to recover from, then it's not really worth $50 million. So that's something that hasn't changed either, is like, what are you working with as far as how much money is available to recover from?
I think another thing that I guess starts to get into has changed, but kind of sort of hasn't changed, is where's the venue? Where are you going to have to file a lawsuit if litigation becomes necessary? Believe it or not, every county in Georgia is slightly different to vastly different as far as what the makeup of a jury would be. When we're picking a jury, we pick a jury from the voter rolls of registered voters in the county, and that can be very different of the type of person you would get in North Fulton County versus way down in South Georgia where Joel's from. And there's a lot that goes into the psychology of a jury, and what we've seen over time is that political affiliations, socioeconomic levels, there's a lot of things that can really make the same case worth very different values in different places. For instance, you could have someone in a small rural town in Georgia that loves the case and they think they're giving you all the money in the world, and they give you a verdict that's not really that large or as large as what someone living in a more affluent area would be. I know back in the day I used to work with some insurance adjusters who were based out of California, and they would give me nuisance offers on my cases that were like $10,000 to $15,000 because they thought that was no money for the California market, whereas in Georgia a nuisance offer could be $500. So the value of the dollar goes a long way too, and where the jury is that's going to be deciding ultimately what the case is worth.
Yeah. So ultimately, things like how bad you're hurt, do you bear any responsibility for the wreck or the injury, or is it 100% somebody else's fault? How long you have to treat, how much you suffer, where you have to try the case at, all of those things tend to stay the same, even though different counties and venues where you would file the case, the demographics may change over time. Being in Cobb County here used to be a very red, conservative county. Over the past few years, it's kind of turned purple, and I'd even say it's pretty solid blue now as far as political affiliation. We are in a county where the demographics have changed a lot in the past 10 years. All right, so things that have changed that affect the value are the cost of medical services. So everything's more expensive nowadays. I mean, gas, goods, all kinds of stuff. So it costs more to go to the doctor. It costs more to have tests done. So the economic value of the case as far as the medical bills themselves go increases what you could claim, because in every injury case you're going to claim your medical bills and the cost of treatment. Another thing with economic damages that have changed is, even though this hasn't quite kept up with inflation is wages. By and large, it costs more to live nowadays, and so wages have generally increased over time, even though many would argue wages haven't increased at the same pace as inflation. So generally you're claiming more for lost wages than you would have been 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah. And another thing that's changed that is a lot more dense, and I'm sure we have a lot of videos on this as well, is just there's been some new tort reform laws passed that control what information gets to a jury and what a jury gets to hear about what your medical bills are, and whether health insurance might be involved to have paid them, or whether health insurance should have been involved to pay them, or what reasonable and customary charges actually are for the medical bills. So while you might think you have $20,000 in medical bills under the new tort reform law, the insurance company is going to be arguing that actually they should get to present it to a jury a much lower number based on either whether health insurance paid, whether you had health insurance and didn't use it, or the old, just the bill costs too much, it's not reasonable given the region where the care took place.
Yeah. So all in all, if you're in 2026, you've been injured, you have a claim that you can bring, whether it's a car wreck, a fall, whatever. The first thing you're going to look at is, what are your injuries? Are they permanent? What was the degree of suffering? What are your medical bills? Do you have lost wages? All of these type things factor into the sort of the gross value of your claim. And then you also have to look at what is there to recover from. You have to look at things like, what's it going to cost to get this recovery between paying attorneys, and then also what's it going to cost in litigation expenses, because it's actually more expensive to prove a case now than it was 15 years ago because of increased technology and what it costs to download vehicles and get experts and all that kind of stuff. So you really have to look at all these different factors, and then also consider that in most states for car wreck cases, minimum limits coverage has not increased in decades. So the last time, for example, in Georgia, that minimum limits was increased was, I think it was like early 2000s. I mean,
yeah, 99. I think it was 1999.
Yeah, so like Facebook didn't exist. We were using bag phones in our cars, those type things, and the minimum limits coverage is the same 26 years later than it was back then, 27 years later. So we all know that everything's more expensive, so if you get a $25,000 settlement in 2026, it's worth a lot less than what you would have got if you got $25,000 in 1999. So it's a tough situation, but we have to operate under the laws that are provided. And ultimately, I think the overall arching piece of advice that we need to give you in this video is that if you're unsure what your claim may be worth, it's worth scheduling an appointment with an attorney that does injury cases, so you can have that discussion with the attorney as to what your case might be worth and how he or she is going to go about helping you decide what a reasonable value for your case is. So, you got anything else?
No, I think that sums it up.
All right, well, this video will be relevant for the next 6 months because it is now June of 2026, but we appreciate you spending some time with us. If the video was helpful, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, we will see you in a couple of weeks for another video.
As personal injury lawyers, we love what we do, and we're happy to share the experience we've gained in personal injury law. To help our family, friends, and YouTube subscribers, we've shared over 300 personal injury videos covering various injury topics. So if you'd like to gain more knowledge that may help protect yourself or a loved one when you're on the roads or out in public, check out our channel or view our playlist of shorts for quick personal injury tips.